I yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from California, Ms. Lee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in strong support of H.R. 2116, the Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair Act, commonly known as the Crown Act. And I'd like to thank Speaker Pelosi, Chairman Nadler, and of course, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman for bringing this bill to the floor. And let me just first say, we all know, and you've heard the debate, that this bill is going to take aim at prohibiting race-based hair discrimination. But let me just tell the other side, I am an American, and it is very important to me and to millions of Americans. Yet, your arguments, they're outrageous, but they're not surprising that Republicans, every step of the way, try to diminish the humanity of black and brown people, try to uphold white supremacy at every step of the way. Just listen to what you're saying in terms of arguing against this bill. For decades, black and brown people have been penalized for wearing hairstyles, natural hairstyles, deemed as messy, unruly, and unprofessional. We've seen students humiliated and unfairly disciplined because their braided hair extensions or locks were considered a violation of the dress code. In the workplace, black people with curly afros, braids, twists, or locks, or with no hair, are often perceived as less professional than people with straightened hair, which negatively impacts their ability to be promoted or to get raises. And yes, personally, I've always worn my hair however I chose. I've worn it straight, I've worn it braided, I've worn it spiked, I've worn it curly, I've worn it in a big natural, you name it. You name it. Everyone should be able to make those choices without fear of repercussion. Hair discrimination is rooted in systemic racism and is a real barrier to advancement and empowerment for our communities. Now, I've been fighting to end this discriminatory practice for years. In 2014, the women of the Congressional Black Caucus urged the Army to rescind Army Regulation 671, which prohibited many hairstyles worn by African-American women and other women of color. And I led an amendment in the fiscal year 15 Defense Appropriations Bill to ban funding for this discriminatory rule.
Gentlelady will suspend.
May I have another 30 seconds? Mr. Chairman.
I yield the gentlelady another 30 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to remind you, we put this in the Defense Appropriations Bill to ban funding for this discriminatory rule. The military understood it. And due to our advocacy, a few years later, the U.S. Navy removed their discriminatory policy, allowing women, especially women of color, to wear their hair in dreadlocks, large buns, braids, and ponytails. We owe it to ourselves and to future generations to take action here in Congress to break down these barriers. Everyone should be able to show up as their authentic selves, and passing the Crown Act is a major step in that direction. I urge my colleagues to vote yes, and I yield back.